don't think you're sleeping. Can you come back in an hour?
Need sleepy.
Please go away. Let me sleep for the love of God!
It's now time for the Billy C. Morning Show, part of the Billy C. Boxing Network. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C. Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C. Morning Show. Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's doing A-OK this fine morning. I'll give a special shout-out to all of our viewers on Fight TV. And if you don't have Fight TV, make sure you download the app. You can get Fight TV on your handheld, including your cell phone. Just go to fight.tv/BillyC. That's fight, FITE.tv/BillyC. Download the app today and enjoy our show and some other combat sports shows, and be in a position to get all the pay-per-views at discount prices and pay-per-views that you wouldn't get anywhere else except on Fight TV. So check it out. Download the app today. Fight.tv/BillyC. And you got to go to fight.tv/BillyC to get everything forever for free, except for the pay-per-views, of course. Today's show is being brought to you in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria, an Italian restaurant located in beautiful St. Simon's Island, or I should say on beautiful St. Simon's Island in Georgia. Check out his website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com, or give my man a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328, and make sure you check out Sal's delicious Italian cuisine. Speaking about getting Sal's delicious Italian cuisine, if you're in Brunswick, and we want to give a shout out to one of our newest affiliates, WGIG AM in Brunswick, Georgia, swing by Sal's. Tell him you heard this show on WGIG, and he'll throw you a free cannoli. Yeah, just tell him Billy C sent you. Check out all the information and the address, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com. Today's show is also being brought to you in part by my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage, The Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all great books are sold. You can get a copy of it by visiting barnesandnoble.com or amazon.com. And you could get it right now while you're watching or listening to the show. Hey, listen, you want a signed copy? Don't worry about it. I'll hook you up. Just visit our website, BillyCBoxing.com, and click on the book club section. And make sure you click the right box. If you're in the U.S. or if you're outside the U.S., there's two different boxes to click. And make sure in the comments section you write what you want me to write on the book. Otherwise, you just get my John Hancock. That's it. Today's show, we got a bunch of things to talk about. Scheduled to join us a little bit later, Boxing Hall of Famer and New Jersey Boxing Commissioner Larry Hazzard. Our blast from the past, Alex Papali will join us, and today we'll be discussing former world middleweight champion and Boxing Hall of Famer Carlos Monzon, another request from one of you guys. And my topic, one of my topics today, we got a lot of discussion still going on about the big fight from last weekend, Triple G and Daniel Jacobs, and the undercard featuring Rung Soya, the Thai fighter, the fighter from Thailand, and Chocolatito, Roman Gonzalez. So we got to talk about that. Was Roman Gonzalez not only robbed of the fight, but was he robbed of his place in boxing history? I got a chance to rewatch that specific fight a couple of times. I did think initially that Gonzalez was beat up pretty bad. I still feel he was beat up pretty bad. But after watching it a couple of more times, I kind of don't think that he lost the fight. Yes, he took a beating, but he did indeed land some just sharpshooter type punches throughout that fight. And most of the big punches that I initially thought were being landed by the Thai fighter, I'm just going to not even murder his name anymore, the Thai fighter, were blocked or deflected slightly. And the impact that I originally thought maybe wasn't there. So I'm giving my own my view on that fight. I'm giving it a change. Maybe was he robbed? Joining me right now from beautiful St. Simon's Island, Georgia, a place that we're going to be in August, even though we haven't mentioned any more on that. Is my man. Just please welcome Sal Rocky Senecola. What's up, Sal?
Good morning, Bill. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. Not
snow
too.
melting?
It is. It is. We still got after. It was a week ago. Yesterday, we got 2 feet, and I tell you, there's only about 6-7 inches left on the ground. So it's going away pretty quickly, and it's going away the right way. So no big floods. But hey, Sal, I don't know if you had a chance to revisit the Gonzalez, the Thai fighter. I'm sick of murdering the poor guy's name, but
I do. So right, then. So right, forget about it.
Yeah. Do you think that have you changed your outlook on that fight? Did you think Gonzalez won that fight?
Yeah, I did. I had him up 114, 112. I thought he was robbed. I thought that it was a great fight. There was a couple swing rounds, but I had him up 114 to 112. I thought Gonzalez pulled it out. He did land some crisp, hard shots, and he took some hard shots. I gave Gonzalez several of the middle rounds, and then it was an ebb and flow towards the end, but he lost by a 10-8 round in the first round because he got dropped. But he came back, and like I said, my scorecard says 114 Gonzalez to 112 Soya.
Well, I mean,
that's right.
People are using that word that you just used, robbed. And even if we went by even if we went by your score of 114, 112, to me that's not
a rob.
Right. It still was a close case, but more significantly, Sal, was he robbed a place in history? A lot of people, including myself, felt that he was not only going to surpass Floyd Mayweather with an undefeated record, he was going to leave him in the dust. And the biggest difference between what he was approaching was that he fought all the toughest fighters that he could. He moved up in weight and he fought everybody that made a difference in his division, something that Floyd Mayweather has not done for a decade. Was he robbed of that?
I think he was robbed that opportunity, that chance to solidify him in that elitist category, undefeated. And I think that, that's why boxing is such a unique sport, because there is no real score. It doesn't end like a ball game, 6-5. It doesn't end like a football game. It ends subject to key judges using their best skill and their make biased opinions as far as what to do and how to score based on the exchanges and the blows and the aggression and things of that. There's so many things cumulatively that come into one's heart and mind when they're looking at a fight objectively, that it's really subject to human error, and I'm going to say that, and that's why sometimes we disagree greatly and not so greatly with some of these decisions.
Sal, you're breaking up a lot, and we can hardly hear you. So
how about there? Is that better?
Yeah, it's a little better. Yeah.
All right. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I give Rung Visaya all the credit that he could possibly get, but I feel that this decision it went deeper than just a win and a loss. The boxing community, for the most part, is outraged over this, and in a way, I'm glad, because it shows that. A lot of fans, whether they're diehard fans or just, the puppet fans that we seem to have today, at least they all agree that Roman Gonzalez was a very special fighter and put in a special performance and didn't really get what he should have deserved.
Well, he put in a great performance, and like I said, I had him straight up 114 to 112, and it was a tough fight for him, and he had to dig deep. He had to come back. He had to, you get dropped in the first round, you're behind right away, 10-8. Yeah, you have 11 more rounds to make it up. And I saw him fight his heart out. He did. There was some heavy, heavy exchanges. He took a lot of shots, but I still had him outpointing in the overall fight. And if that is the case, yeah, he was robbed in boxing history of the attraction of being that elitist and that top 1 percentile.
I got some emails. Let's read a couple of emails here. This one's from Jesse. Says, "Hey, Billy C. and Sal. I saw the Roman versus Surasket, and I just, by the eye test, I saw, I'm just going to say, Rungvisai win at least 8 rounds, if not more. He was the aggressor, the boxer, and landed the harder punches. I don't know how and why the people and even Romans say that Gonzalez won. Rungvisai looked bigger and didn't respect Roman's power, and his lefty stance of boxing bothered Gonzalez. He clearly won, and a rematch would be good for them, or Rungvisai against Inoue, Roman versus Estrada, or the rematch. Don't think that card was pay-per-view worthy." Well, I strongly disagree with you on that, Jesse. As far as the Gonzalez Rungvisai fight, like I said, when I initially watched it the first time, I thought pretty similar to what you're saying in this email. But I've watched it 3 times since then, and without sound, and just stopping it after each round and really thinking about the score. And I did have Chocolatito winning the fight. He says both trainers played it safe, especially Jacob's corner didn't take any risks. I was more surprised with Triple G's corner, and because they just didn't do anything different. They were respecting Danny Jacobs' power, which they should have, but they didn't do anything different as far as Jacobs' corner. In their mind, they were doing everything right. I still feel that Andre Rozier is an awful trainer, and to tell his fighter that he was winning after every round prevented Jacobs from taking any risk. What do you think about that, Sal? I mean, should a trainer, if this guy really thought that Jacobs was winning every round, you need to get glasses. But, what do you think? Is that a confidence booster move or what?
I don't think I would tell him he's winning the fight, or I would say, hey, it's going to be close no matter what. You got to continue doing what you're doing and surprise him. Take the fight to him and do this, because you never know how these judges are going to score it, and you don't want it to go to the judges' cards. I would tell him, you've got to keep landing that right. You've got to keep sidestepping and trying to get away from his power. Watch what he does from a body and then counter him. Come over with the hook. Do this, do that. You can't take it for granted you're going to win this fight on a decision. That's what I would tell him.
Yeah, well, listen, the way scoring goes these days, I would rip a page out of the Sam Langford book. Bring your own judges with you, your left hand and your right hand, and try and end this safety first BS is hurting this sport in more ways than one. He says, Billy, Jacobs versus Triple G was hard to score, but I had it a tie by the eye test. Jacobs' fast hands, lateral movement, and stance switching, and his combos were effective, but he didn't do that consistently, and neither was his punch output. If he would have done that, I would have clearly scored it for him. Triple G didn't throw enough, and he didn't cut the ring off. He was confused and looking for the one-punch knockout. Triple G had good head movement, and his chin is good. Don't really want to count the knockdown legit because Jacobs lost his balance. Triple G versus Canelo versus Chavez winner or rematch, and Jacobs in the rematch, or Saunders or Lemieux. I don't know. People are saying that Triple G didn't cut the ring off. I thought he did. I just give a lot of credit to Daniel Jacobs for getting out when he was cornered. I don't think he was confused, Triple G. I just think Triple G did exactly what Jesse said in terms of looking for the one-punch knockout. I think he should have employed his jab a little more. When he did, Daniel Jacobs seemed to be stymied. So that's my thought there. He said, and as far as a rematch, I love Daniel Jacobs against David Lemieux, the winner, getting Triple G. I love that fight. Triple G versus Canelo. I really don't care about that fight. I don't think Canelo deserves a fight with Triple G. I really don't. I think Canelo has really taken the path of least resistance, and I've lost a lot of respect for Canelo Alvarez due to that, especially since all of the BS he said. Us Mexicans don't F around. We'll fight anybody. And then he's fighting the easy. I mean, he basically is a Mexican version of Floyd Mayweather right now. So that's my thoughts there. He said he didn't see the Carlos Cudras fight, but he should fight Roman, Gonzalez, Estrada, or Yaffe. What's your thoughts? I'm not impressed with Cudras. I didn't think he did that much to justify him getting the win. I think it was a close fight. I don't know if he deserves a rematch with Gonzalez or even against Rungvisai. What do you think, Sal?
I'd like to see a rematch with Sorosay and Gonzalez. That's a fight I want to see.
I mean Cudras. Cudras was the guy that Gonzalez fought prior to the fight. He was on the undercard. Do you think he should fight Gonzalez and the winner fight Rungvisai, or you think they should go Rungvisai, Gonzalez right away, and Cudras is the odd man out?
I think they should go right away. I like to see a fight. That's the way it used to be. Especially if you win a championship or you're doing something there, you have a fight, you get back in the ring. Look at Joe Frazier and Ali. Yeah, sometimes they took in between fights and this and that, but I think this was, as they would say, hot off the press. Let's get it while it's hot. Let's see a rematch. Let them fight in 3 or 4 months. And the same thing, I think could be said. Well, I want to see Jacobs. I was impressed with. I mean, I gave him. I'm looking at my scorecard right now. I gave him 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rounds. I gave him, and but they were good rounds. And like I said, there were a couple swing rounds that could have gone either way. But I scored at 115 to 112. Triple G. And Triple G, I was surprised because he didn't dismantle Jacobs. As Max Kellerman would say all night, that Triple G was neutralized.
Well, Triple G should have shown a little less respect. But hold that thought, Sal. We got to take a break. We'll be right back.
The Billy C. Morning Show will be right back.
Hey, fight fans. Check out KOFantasyBoxing.com. KO Fantasy Boxing is boxing's only trademarked fantasy game. Check it out, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Select your own gym, your own fighters, track them through a season that can last from 3 months to a year, depending upon which league you join. You got to check this out, man. www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Join it today. Again, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com, and tell them Billy C sent ya.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now, back to the Billy C. Morning Show. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're listening to the Billy C Show. Special shout out to WGIG in Brunswick, Georgia. Glad you guys could be with us. And don't forget about Fight TV. If you don't have that app on your phone yet, what are you waiting for? Just go to Fight. That's FITE. Fight.tv/Billy C. I'm here with Sal Rocky Senecola. And before we went to break, I agree. I think that Triple G should have stepped on the gas. I think he showed a little too much respect for Daniel Jacobs. But hey, Daniel Jacobs obviously punches harder than people gave him credit for, and Triple G was watching out for that, Sal.
Well, exactly. We don't really know what Triple
Can hardly hear you, Sal.
Do you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I had microphone and earphone issues this morning, so I'm speaking into the computer. I will definitely make sure I'm projecting. But I will tell you, I think Triple G may have gotten hurt early with some of the shots, and I think he was protecting himself, and he also was aware of the punching power that Jacobs possessed.
Right.
So he was probably, I don't want to say safety first, that's not it, but he probably had to change his fight plan a little bit, and that's why he was looking for the one punch. where I think he should have just tried to continue to dismantle Jacobs and cut that ring off, and he had given up on the body attack.
I was just going to say, you took the words right out of my mouth. He should have worked the body a little more. You're right.
Should have worked the body. Number one, Triple G is magnificent when he is able to land those uppercuts, land those hooks, land those rib breaking shots, and those thunderous puffs that just come. You hear the sound on the side of the body and the stomach when he lands those blows. And he gave up that attack and that technique and that approach. It wasn't going to be his fight style that night. And again, was it because that he respected Jacobs too much, or that he did see that he was having trouble hitting him from that range? You know, Triple G's style is if he's getting hit, he's able to hit back. And I didn't see that many exchanges inside where I thought that Triple G would have the opportunity to come out with the upper hand.
Roman Gonzalez loses to Rungvisai. Today I'm talking about the fact, did he get robbed of not only the fight, but a piece of history? What's your thoughts? Drop me an email, billy@talkinboxing, TalkinBoxing.com, or come on over into our chat room right now if you're watching or listening live and give us your thoughts. We're glancing over and monitoring it. Now, the chat room we monitor is up on BillyCBoxing.com. We got another email. Got several of them, Sal. I'm going to try to get through here. Joel says, hey, Billy C, with Anthony Joshua against Klitschko being a late afternoon fight on April 29th, will you be doing a post-fight show for that? I think it's a huge fight not to do a post-fight. Of course we're doing a post-fight show. We promised you guys that we're doing post-fight shows for all the significant fights, and that one is really significant. I'm looking forward to that fight big time. So you can mark that one down on your calendar. We'll definitely be doing a post-fight show. It would be nice to do it at Sal's right in the afternoon, right in the middle when he's most busy. But anyway, we got another email. The subject on this one is international listener. And this is from, now I'm not going to try to pronounce his name because I think I'm going to destroy it, but I'll give it a shot. Ipilai. He says, hey, Billy C, I'm an international listener from Australia, and I've been tuning into your show for a while now. I got to say, there aren't many YouTube boxing channels that can keep my attention, but yours certainly does. Well, we appreciate that. He says, though there are many things I completely disagree with you about on boxing, I definitely stay entertained with your content. For example, just recently with the Triple G Jacobs card, I thought Jacobs won more rounds than the judges had it. But I can definitely see how many people would have scored it for Triple G, including yourself. Gonzalez definitely lost, so I agree with you there. Mayweather is 100% the best of this generation. You definitely disagree with me on that. And boxing is alive more than ever because of personalities like his. Well, I just want to comment one thing before I go on. I respect everyone's opinion, and I certainly respect yours. My hang-up with Floyd Mayweather is not if he's one of the best fighters of his generation, which he clearly is. It's the way he goes about it. Traditionally, world champions or great fighters, let me use that, fighters that become great or are looked upon as being great, have always challenged themselves and have always done things above and beyond what the normal fighters do. Floyd Mayweather expects to get those accolades without doing what these past greats have done. That's my hang-up. As far as a personality, I don't know about you, but I don't think he's got a good personality at all. I can't respect a guy that smacks around women and beats up kids that can't defend themselves. I'm saying kids as in 20-year-old or younger security guards. So, I mean, no, I don't respect him as a man because I don't think he's a man. As a fighter, I give him all the credit in the world for successfully maneuvering his career to where it is today. And I'll end it at that. He says, I have a question that you and Sal can discuss. He says, my question is, do you think there is a racial divide in the boxing community? Do you think that promoters, networks, commentators, etc. exploit this and use it in subtle ways to persuade fans to judge a fight with emotion and not their brain? Appreciate the shows, Billy C. and Sal. Keep up the good work. And if I'm ever in your neck of the woods, I'm stopping by Sal's for a slice or two. Well, you better stop by Sal's, and that goes for anyone in traveling through the state of Georgia. You definitely want to stop by Sal's. I definitely think there's a racial divide in the boxing community, Sal, not only for color of the skin, but I also think that some of the commentators will try to sway the listener base to go with the fighter that they're getting paid to talk about. I mean, especially, guys like Al Bernstein, who I respect immensely, and I think is one of the, best ringside commentators ever. He has become very corporate of late. And, when you listen to some of his opinions, it's almost like he's being paid extra money to say it. We all talked about how bad and how much it must have cost cost the networks to pay Sugar Ray Leonard to actually say his fight was equal to, the fight between Keith Thurman and Keith Thurman's last fight against why am I drawing a blank here?
Probably because of my microphone. Yes, I know.
It's a great fight. Danny Garcia. Jeez,
Danny Garcia.
They're trying to compare
right
that.
Here.
Yeah.
Danny Garcia and Keith Thurman.
God,
I have Keith Thurman winning 117 to 111.
God, am I losing my mind or what? But so what do you think? You think there's some racial divide in the boxing community? Thanks for the email, by the way.
I'd hate to admit that, and I definitely think that you have some favorites beyond skin color that people like to market and push. So on that level, I think it's more of a personal favorite for marketability than a racial favorite. So I'm not really too sure about that, Bill.
Well, I'll tell you what.
I don't think there's a color divide.
I do. I think that, what happens in this sport today, whenever, for an example, Triple G Daniel Jacobs, all right? A lot of people that feel Jacobs won the fight are saying that he was robbed because he's black. And, I can't stand that. If you want to give me an educated reason why and show me rounds that you feel he won, I'm open for it. But if you're telling me that he was robbed just because of the color of his skin, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. Because, there are more black fighters in the sport today than there are any other skin color, whether you want to call white, yellow, red, whatever. So I'm sorry, but I'm not going to fall into that. I can't. Just remember, ILM, Italian Lives Matter, Sal. Italian Lives Matter. That's all I'm going to say.
There you go.
I got several more
All
emails.
lives matter.
No, that's right. That's the truth. And obviously, I'm being serious.
I know you're being facetious.
Right, but being serious, all lives matter. We got several other emails that I'm not going to be able to read here before we go to break and get Larry Hazard on, but I am going to read one more. This one's from my man Mike from Michigan. He says, well, it's finally here. The day that I found out that Paulie Malignaggi was officially retired from boxing. Woohoo. Now we could just get that. Now if we can just get that damn Mario Ronaldo off the air, we'd be getting somewhere. That's all I got. Satisfaction knowing I may never have to watch any of Paulie Malignaggi's fights ever again. Paulie Malignaggi, I never liked him as a fighter. I never did. He was a girly man. The only fight that I respected him in is the one where they cut his hair off and they stopped the fight. He was taking a horrific beating and he showed a lot of heart in that fight. But aside from that, I never liked Paulie. I do like him as a commentator, but never liked him as a fighter. So I agree with Mike from Michigan there, and I agree 100% about Mario Ronaldo. I think he's terrible. I don't know what the powers that be at Showtime see in this guy. I really don't know anyone that likes him. He's terrible. He speaks over Al and Paulie and anyone else, and he tries to come up with these one-liners. I mean, I can't even. To be honest with you, Sal, I don't even listen when he's on anymore. I mute it.
I listen just to get feedback and see what his opinion is. But I understand.
You understand that he's terrible?
Yes.
All right.
And I understand why you don't listen to him and you put the mute on.
Yeah, I do. So
I understand.
So listen,
I feel your pain.
we're gonna take a break here. I got less than a minute, Sal. Roman Gonzalez. Honestly, do you think that by him not getting the decision, whether it was a close decision or not, was he robbed of more than a fight? Was he robbed of a piece of boxing history? After reviewing the fight, I think he was. What do you think?
Well, yes, and of course, I believe he was now. I mean, when you look at it, this was a guy that was pound for pound considered one of the greatest fighters in today's modern time. And undefeated records stand out, and you're in a special group, and you're an elitist, you're a top 1% when you're the champion undefeated. And to lose this says goodbye to that O forever. And also, the stats as far as his being considered right now the number one pound-for-pound fighter in the whole world. So I think he's one of the greatest out there right now, and I still think he is. And that's why I'd like to see an immediate rematch next 4 or 5 or 6 months.
Yeah, well, you know what?
It's not going to help.
It's not going to help the historical aspect, and it really disheartens me because it happened in New York, and New York, for all intent purposes, they're trying to outlaw the sport. They might as well if they can't get competent judges, and they can't have realistic insurance requirements. If they really don't want the sport in the state, they should just outlaw it. But Sal, listen, we're going to take a break. We got Larry coming up. We got the blast from the past, and we'll get you back on for the final couple of emails we got. This blast might run a little long. It's on Carlos Monzon, so hang tight, all right?
Carlos Monzon. I think he was a middleweight terror when he was fighting.
No doubt. We'll be back in 2.
The Billy C. Morning Show will be right back.
Hey, fight fans, check out KOFantasyBoxing.com. KO Fantasy Boxing is boxing's only trademarked fantasy game. Check it out, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Select your own gym, your own fighters, track them through a season that can last from 3 months to a year, depending upon which league you join. You got to check this out, man, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Join it today. Again, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. And tell him Billy C sent ya.
Now let's dig into our archives and hear a rare interview when Billy C first became the champion of boxing talk radio. Hello, Billy C. As the new champ, can we ask you a few questions?
Why, certainly.
Okay, your fans would like to know how you and your corner have successfully walloped the competition.
We're not ordinary people. We're morons.
Anything else?
I'm a victim of circumstance.
Did your success finally come when you made the show 5 days a week for 2 hours? What do you think?
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
Now, please tell the listeners what you've learned from making it this far.
Certainly. If at first you don't succeed, keep on sucking till you do succeed.
Great words of wisdom, Billy C. Keep up the great work as the undisputed People's Champion with your show, Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. Any last words to anyone who's listening?
This is your fault, you bonehead.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to the Billy C. Morning Show. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And We're back. You're listening to the Billy C Show. Glad you could join us. Don't forget about downloading the Fight TV app so you can watch our show and some other stuff on your phone or any other handheld device. Just go to Fight, that's F-I-T-E, fight.tv/Billy C, and download your app today for free, of course. Joining me right now, Boxing Hall of Famer and New Jersey Boxing Commissioner, my man Larry Hazard. What's up, Larry?
Hey, what's up, Billy?
A lot of stuff, brother. First and foremost, I want to talk to you first about a topic that we have today, and of course it's pertaining to the pay-per-view fight last weekend. As far as the Roman Gonzalez, I want to start off with the Roman Gonzalez fight because it's one that keeps coming up over and over and over. And you know, his fight with Rung Vizai, which obviously I'm probably murdering the guy's name, and I apologize, but you know, when I initially watched the fight, Larry, I thought that Gonzalez basically got his butt kicked. I mean, you know, he was beat up. You know, it seemed like his punches weren't affecting Rung Vizai as much. He did hurt him a couple of rounds, but you know, that's what I initially saw, and I was thinking during the fight that maybe the size was making a difference, et cetera, et cetera. Well, after listening to everybody, and I went back and watched the fight 3 more times with no sound. One time I stopped it after each round and really let the round sink in. And, you know, I was surprised to see that I felt that Chocolatito won the fight. It was a close fight, but I thought he won. But what bothers me more now is I feel that not only may he have been, and I use this word just because it's a good word to use, not that I mean it by definition, but not only was he robbed by a win, and the fight was close, so by no stretch of the imagination was it a robbery, but was he robbed a piece of history? To me, that's the deeper issue. Now, what was your thoughts on the fight itself, and do you think a piece of history got torn away from Chocolatito?
Well, I think both. Unlike you, I didn't have to go back and look at it again. I thought that Chocolatito won the fight, okay, that he clearly won the fight because he demonstrated in all of the elements of judging a fight, he demonstrated that he was superior. He was more effectively aggressive. He certainly was the ring general, okay. Even though I don't care that much about punch stats per se, because I think that they're kind of over the hill. But if you want to throw in effective punching, if you want to throw in, you know, more punches landed, he clearly won the fight, in my opinion, and in the opinion of most people that I've spoken with. And I didn't have to look at it again. Probably get a chance to see it again this weekend, okay? But was he robbed a piece of history? Well, certainly he was. I mean, you know, in my opinion, and it really hasn't changed a whole lot, although there are others who may be now vying for that pound-for-pound title. I still think that Chocolatito Gonzalez is still pound for pound, arguably the best fighter in boxing. But I think that the judges, who were experienced judges, by the way, 2 of them, as I can remember, had identical scores, I think, which is something that I find very odd in some of these questionable decisions where you have 2 judges with the exact identical scores. It's just something that raises a flag for me, you know. But you know, it's one of those things that we constantly have to live with. I certainly don't want to go to the extreme that the WBC and Suleiman, the son now, you know, that's a feather in their cap for open scoring and all of these other things, you know. I'm not going to join that band that looks for things to break in boxing just to fix it, you know. But I do think that Chocolatito won the fight. I thought that he was robbed a piece of history, just as Meldrick Taylor was robbed a piece of history when he lost, when that fight was stopped against Chavez. So, every decade, I guess we have a situation like that where that discussion comes up. So, I pretty much agree with you in that respect.
Yeah, I'm not sure what I was watching the first time around. I think what it was with all the shots and what I did notice when I watched it the next times was that a lot of the punches that I assumed, and that makes me in the first time I watched it, I noticed that Chocolatito was actually deflecting a lot of those punches, and a lot of those shots did not land flush and should not have been scored as such, and I'll admit, I think that the blood definitely swayed, it made you think that he was taking a beating, but I feel for the guy, because the one thing I respect about Chocolatito, something unlike other fighters of today, is that he really challenged himself old school wise. He went after the best guys. I mean, people don't know a lot of the fighters that he has fought because of the weight division. But, when you go and dissect his resume, I mean, these are guys that were all the best the divisions that he fought in had to offer. I mean, not just the best, the best. I mean, there was no question. And now that's basically shoveled under the carpet. And I think that's what bothers me the most.
Yeah, well, I have to agree with that. He's back to the drawing board, but I do believe that the blood had something to do with it, although it shouldn't have had anything to do with it with experienced judges, which you had in the fight. And it's just unfortunate. It's just one of those unfortunate situations that I hate to say often occurs, but it does occur often in the sport of boxing. And we just have to live with it. But it was an exciting fight, and I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that he really couldn't hurt the opponent. I'm not going to try this guy's name, but he really, Chocolatito's punches really didn't seem to be hurting him, even though they were effective punches. But the guy could take a shot, and he maintained his poise. He looked like he never really got hurt in the fight. He was smart. He had that smirk on his face all the way through. So that may have had some influence, in the decision. I really don't know. I really don't know what the judges were thinking about in that fight. Yeah,
when you have a fight of that magnitude, you got to have people that are focusing on the fight and not pulling what happened to me, and the other thing too is watching the fights without the Three Stooges commentating was so much better. I mean, they sway. I mean, you can't help but start listening to what they say. I mean, it's gotten so bad, and I used to point the fingers at one network, and now it's like really it's all of them. Like we were kidding last time about what they must have had to pay Sugar Ray Leonard to sit there and say the Garcia Thurman fight was like him and Hearns. Yeah. And now I'm saying, well, geez, what are they paying these guys to have their nose up their butts? I mean, it's terrible. But Triple G and Daniel Jacobs, I love the fight. And I believe the right guy won this fight. But let me tell you something. I said this before, and I feel even stronger now. Daniel Jacobs came out of this fight as a winner, even though on his record it looked like a loss. My question is, do you think Triple G is slipping, or you think it seemed like both corners were overconfident, and the fight was close? I mean, I think that both corners should have recognized that and stepped on the gas. I mean, I think that Daniel Jacobs' corner is horrific. I think that Andre Rozier, I don't know why he thinks he's so Zen-ish, but I mean, he's telling the kid he's winning every single round, and Triple and then on Triple G, what Abel Sanchez, When do you tell Triple G to step it up? I mean, as a matter of fact, I didn't hear anything out of either one of those trainers for 12 rounds. What's your thoughts on that fight?
Well, I slightly differ with you just a little bit. I happen to think, and I'll admit, I think maybe my heart has something to do with this, which is something you can never really take from judges. You know, I give them that. I thought that Jacobs won the fight. It was a close fight, but I realized that there was only one knockdown scored in the fight, and Triple G scored that knockdown. So I could live with the decision more because of that. But I do think that Jacobs won the fight very close. But I think that what he did show was that Triple G does have some vulnerabilities. Okay? It started with Kell Brook. I don't know if he was able to take advantage of some of the things that he saw in the Brook fight, but Triple G does have some areas that can be capitalized on, and Jacobs brought that out. And the knockdown that occurred, see, that happened while he was adjusting to that switching to southpaw. He gave him trouble with that.
Yes, he did.
You know, I didn't like it in the beginning. I didn't like it, Billy, when he did it in the beginning. I said, oh, come on, Danny, what are you doing that for? You know, and then all of a sudden he got knocked down, but he got up and he made the adjustment for the rest of the fight, and he switched to southpaw exactly when he felt like he needed to. You know, he utilized the ring. You understand? He was really, in my opinion, showing, you know, the classic skills of a learned boxer. That, what, ladies and gentlemen, was the sweet science. Okay, that's the sweet science. What Daniel did. No, it wasn't a whole lot of engagement. There was some engagement. Okay, enough engagement to make the fight entertaining. But what Jacob did, he showed you the sweet science. Switch to southpaw. Okay, you can see where he caused problems for Triple G when he switched to southpaw. Then when he came back around, you know, Triple G was able to be a little bit more effective, not overwhelmingly, you know. And that knockdown, I think, happened, you know, I don't even think it was a real, you know, effective knockdown. It was kind of a little off balance, not much, but it was a full-fledged knockdown because they showed it on the replay, and it looked kind of like almost like a body punch, you know, where he went down. Okay, but once he got up, he made the adjustment, and I think he went on, and in my opinion, you know, won a close one. Now, as far as the corners are concerned, okay, I agree with you 100%. I did not hear any real instructions coming from the corner. The only thing I heard, which, you know, I kind of, with Andre, we're gonna take it one round at a time. Well, of course, okay, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're winning every round, because he wasn't winning every round, and neither corner man seemed like he emphasized the urgency of the moment, okay? Because that last round, those last few rounds to me were the urgent rounds for both fighters, which either one could have pulled that decision out without any questions. Even if it was just the 11th and 12th round, okay, if there was more urgency from either fighter, there would not have been any debate on who won the fight. But overall, I thought that Danny pulled it out. But, you know, I in my heart, I was feeling for him because it's such a great story for the sport of boxing. you know, and I guess that had a lot to do with, you know, my feelings. But what a great story for the sport of boxing if he had won the fight.
I think
He had been given the decision.
I think your choice of the word urgency was right on because neither fighter had that. Now, as far as the score, I scored the fight 114-113 in favor of Triple G, and I had a
really I had the same score the other way.
Okay, but listen, this is what I was just going to say. But in my notes, I had 4 rounds that I write as close, and when I put close on my notes, that means I scored it one way. And it could have been scored theoretically either way, you know, and for reasons like in those 3 rounds, which, you know, were rounds 1, 2, 3, and 8. And the first 2 rounds I gave to Daniel Jacobs. And then rounds 3 and 8, I thought
You're right.
Yeah, you know, so those rounds I thought were the difference makers. And that's where everyone's scorecards could have went either way. I mean, thank God the scores were all within reason. You know, 114, 113, 115, 112. I mean, you know, to me, rounds, I had it 6 rounds apiece. The knockdown was the difference, and end the story. But your choice of word with urgency, I think, cost Danny the fight because he basically was on his bicycle the last couple of rounds where, you know, listening to Rozier, who's telling him he won the fight. You know, and how many times in history have we seen that? You know, you don't win the fight in a close fight. If you've knocked a guy down a few times and there's, you know, all you got to do is make it to the final bell and there's no doubt, not even a smidgen of doubt, then I could see being safe, similar to what Keith Thurman did to Danny Garcia in their last fight. But, you know, the truth of the matter is this was not one of those fights, and the blame goes on the corner of Daniel Jacobs. I think what happened in this fight is that Triple G, and you mentioned you thought that Daniel Jacobs performed the sweet science. I think he did because he was able to get away from Triple G cutting the ring off. But what Triple G failed to do, and this is where I blame it on Abel Sanchez for not reminding him, every time he started employing the jab, he neutralized Daniel Jacobs. And I also agree with Danny switching up between Orthodox and Southpaw. Definitely had to reboot Triple G during each round. I thought that was an effective approach. And movement and you know, punching while you're moving clearly is the kryptonite for Triple G. But Triple G did not employ his jab enough. When he did, Daniel Jacobs was neutralized. He didn't move. He didn't throw punches. And why isn't Abel Sanchez, who's supposed to be such a great trainer, why isn't he saying to Triple G, hey, you're not throwing the jab? You know, he didn't say anything. It was like, it reminded me of when, you know, certain fighters get to a point where they know it all and all they need from a trainer is to give them water between rounds. That's the way it seemed. Like, you know, I just, like you, I don't think there was any sense of urgency, and neither fighter, specifically Triple G, didn't go in for the kill. You know,
well, you're right on. You're right on with a lot of things you're saying, and especially the score. Okay, which is really good because I gave Danny. You mentioned rounds 1, 2, and 3. I gave them all to Danny. Okay, see, I gave all 3 to Danny. Okay, because I liked the way he was utilizing the ring. I like, you know, and all that's good. And again, back to the last 2 rounds and the trainers. Okay, you know, sometimes what happens is that these guys begin to rest on their laurels. You know, they outlive their usefulness, I guess. You know, it reaches a point where I really don't even know if the fight even listens to some of these guys sometimes. You know, and you know, it just raises a lot of questions about these so-called, you know, guys who are supposed to be the best trainers in the game, how they let fights slip away like that, and it makes you wonder, well, what are you watching here? You know, this is a close fight, you know, so it certainly spells rematch. I'd love to see another one.
Well, I mean, they're so far and few in between now, and we'll see what happens. I agree with you. Now, one other topic that keeps coming up about this fight was Danny Jacobs' weight. And, my opinion on this is pretty simple. I don't want to use it as any kind of an advantage because he did what was within the rules. He made the weight on weigh-in day. End the story. Whether it's safe or whether they had that as their secret plan or whatever, I think their secret plan actually was switching from Orthodox to Southpaw. But, a lot of people say, oh, well, he's too big. Well, I've always said that Triple G was not a big middleweight. That was my big knock on Floyd for not fighting him. And Floyd always, he's too big. Everybody wants him to move up to super middleweight, go to light heavyweight. And the truth of the matter is he's small. And I think that Daniel Jacobs proved that on Saturday, that he's, Daniel Jacobs was way bigger than Triple G. But you can't blame him for weighing more on fight night because he did make the weigh-in. And, everything else is, superficial. I mean, the truth of the matter is I do believe that we should have same-day weigh-ins so we have legitimate weight classes, but until that rule is changed, Daniel Jacobs did everything legal. I mean, he didn't do anything, that he should be criticized for.
He didn't do, well, as you know, what happened, they had the official weigh-in the night before, and the IBF, they came, let me just divert for a moment on this weight issue, okay, because I've been around this game a long time, and I don't know if you know the history of this whole weight situation.
Yeah.
If you don't, allow me a few moments.
Right.
Okay. Dooku Kim died in the ring in Las Vegas in the Ray Mancini fight. You remember that?
Of course.
Okay. So right away, the commission, one of the commission doctors out there, a guy by the name of Flipper Mansky, he comes along with the bright idea, or somebody said that Dooku Kim was out on Las Vegas Boulevard in a rubber suit losing weight to make weight that morning. So, okay, now he died, so they come up with this theory that he didn't have enough time to rehydrate. You know. So, make a long story short, all of a sudden, the state of Nevada now, we're going to change the weigh-in to the night before. See, we're always looking in boxing. This is what really galls the shit out of me in this sport. You got people who run around in boxing looking for things to break so that they can fix it and take credit for it. Okay, it wasn't broke in the beginning, but they want to break it and then refix it. Okay? So, all of a sudden, for decades, the beginning of boxing, weigh-ins were the morning of the fight. You come in, you make the weight. Nobody gave a damn what you came in at fight time, what it is. You made the official weigh-in. That's all we care about. Some of the greatest fights in the history of this game have taken place under those rules for decades. Okay? So all of a sudden now, we fast forward to the 20th century is when it started. Okay? This weigh-in crap becomes a problem. Weigh-ins should be the morning of the fight, the way they have always been. You weigh, okay, and that's it. So, this whole thing about taking the belt away because he made the weigh-in the night before and now he didn't come the next morning, it's ridiculous, okay? That's all totally ridiculous. And as far as the weight being a factor in the fight, I think it's all crap. Okay? It's all crap. Well, as long as he made the weight at the official weigh-in, that shouldn't even be a subject that's talked about.
Well,
that's the way I feel.
Larry, I thought that first of all, the Dooku Kim situation, I thought that really expedited going from 15 rounds to 12. And I thought one of the big
part of it too.
Yeah, and I thought
part of it too. Yes.
I thought one of the biggest reasons they went to the day before weigh-ins was because of the TV deals, because of weighing in at the same day. A fighter, actually, I thought it happened in New Jersey, as a matter of fact, where what's his name, decided he didn't make weight and he didn't go on with a fight, and the TV networks were left without programming.
Oh, no. That happened in Washington, D.C. That was Eddie Mustafa
Muhammad. Right.
Yeah, I'll never forget that because I was the referee supposedly for that fight, and that was in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
But that's not the reason. No, I didn't want to get into the other part of that about the weight because going from 15 to 12 rounds, did you think that Jose Suleiman was going to sit back and allow Nevada to just take the show? No. He had to add to that, okay, that, 15 rounds is too much of a burden. We got to now change it to 12 rounds. That's part B of that whole history, okay? And they do things without really doing any research, okay? Because some of the greatest fights in boxing history took place over the 15-round limit, okay? And if you go back and look at the deaths that may have occurred, unfortunate situation, of course, okay? But most of those situations didn't occur anywhere near the 15th round. They occurred like in middle rounds, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, or whenever. But it had nothing to do with the 15 rounds.
No, I think if a referee sees a fighter in trouble, no matter what round it is, they would be better suited to stop the fight early. I personally think.
Right.
I think a 15-round fight would really, change a lot of things. I think, rounds 13, 14, 15 would really separate champions. Even though we have a plethora of them, I think it would separate the champions from these guys that squeak out, like these fights we're talking about right now. It would have been different. 3 more rounds would show who's in better shape, who can come out. I mean, those extra 3 rounds make a huge difference, and I think the sport is being robbed of it, not only the fans, but the sport itself of those last 3 rounds. But
they were always known, 13, 14, and 15 were always known as the championship round.
Yeah, now they have the nerve to call that 10, 11, 12, you know what I mean? And I read as much as I can. Jack Johnson is one of my all-time favorites, and he was a lot like all the criticisms that we give, or at least I give, to Floyd Mayweather today. Jack Johnson was getting the same criticisms back in the early 1900s. And it's funny to listen to the way they discussed fights back then. They were saying, well, I'm going to warm up for the first 10 rounds. Then for the next 10, I'm going to be, and I mean, they weren't even worked up a sweat yet after 6 or 7 rounds, and these fighters now, how many times you see a 4-round fighter gassed out, I mean, it's a different world we live in, my friend.
Different world.
Listen, man, I appreciate your insight once again, telling it like it is, and we appreciate that, and we'll look forward to you next week, brother.
Okay, all right, Billy.
All right, Larry, hang in there, brother.
You too.
That's Larry Hazard, Boxing Hall of Famer and New Jersey boxing commissioner, telling it like it is. Larry knows more than anyone else I know in this sport. I'm going to take a short break. When we come back, blast from the past. Carlos Monzon, back in 2.
The Billy C. Morning Show will be right back.
Join us here for 2 hours as Billy and the gang do what they do best.
Every time I start talking about boxing, a white man got to pull Rocky Marciano out their ass. Rocky Marciano was good, but compared to Joe Louis, Rocky Marciano ain't.
You beat Joe Louis's ass.
Joe Louis was 75 years old when he fought.
Huh?
What?
We're supposed to be talking boxing.
It's Talking Boxing with Billy C.
Hey, fight fans, check out KOFantasyBoxing.com. KO Fantasy Boxing is boxing's only trademarked fantasy game. Check it out, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Select your own gym, your own fighters, track them through a season that can last from 3 months to a year, depending upon which league you join. You got to check this out, man, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Join it today. Again, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. And tell them Billy C sent ya.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you. I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to the Billy C. Morning Show, part of the Billy C. Boxing Network. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could join us. And speaking of joining, don't forget about Fight TV. Listen, if you don't get it, well, you're missing out, man. So download the app today. You can get Fight TV on your handheld, even your phone. Well, I guess that is a handheld, right? Well, go to Fight. That's F-I-T-E. Go to fight.tv/Billy C. Download the app now. And you'll enjoy this show and many others, as well as an opportunity to get all the best fights on pay-per-view that are not available on U.S. television. So check it out, fight.tv/Billy C. Well, it's that time again.
Blast from the past. We shine the spotlight again on fighters from years past.
Marciano, top-ranking heavyweight. Joe Louis is the leading contender.
Joe Frazier with a left hook. Good right hand thrown by Foreman that time. Look at that left hook.
That belt that goes to Ray Mancini.
It's Blast from the Past on Talkin' Boxing.
And this week's Blast from the Past, which is being sponsored by the Title Bout Championship computer game. Get yourself a copy right now by visiting our website, www.billycboxing.com, and clicking on the Title Bout Championship computer game banner, which you'll see on the left-hand side, and KOFantasyBoxing.com. Check it out, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Features actually one of my favorite fighters of all time, and it was another request from one of you guys, the listeners, so keep them coming. If you have a Blast from the Past request, just drop me an email, billy@talkin, that's TALKINBOXING.com, and we'll be glad to do it. This week, former world middleweight champion and Boxing Hall of Famer, Carlos Monzon. And joining us right now to tell us all about Carlos Monzon is my man, Alex Perpali. What's up, Alex?
Good morning, Billy C. How are you?
Not too bad, my man. Not too bad. Always love talking about Carlos Monzon. I mean, what a great fighter, and I'm glad that some of the younger fans even know who he is. And I'm looking forward to talking about him right now, brother.
You know, I'm a little surprised there hasn't been a feature film made of him because he has quite the dramatic story.
He does.
You know, and you know, Hollywood likes those tragedies, and I'm surprised there hasn't been an Argentine film. Maybe there has, but I did notice that he did write an autobiography, but it appears to be only in French. It's called Moi, Carlos Monzon.
Moi.
So,
what did he use the same publisher Jack Johnson did when he wrote his in France?
I don't know. Maybe it talks about him wrestling sharks and stuff.
Oh, really? Monzon's book does?
I'm kidding. I don't know if it does, but of course Jack Johnson had those kind of.
In his autobiography, the French version, he was a secret agent for the U.S. I mean, it was anyway. That's a whole nother story. We'll get into some other.
Yeah, Jack Johnson, time traveler.
Yeah, exactly. Jack Johnson, time traveler. Jack Johnson, superhero. You know. Not the Jack Johnson that is exiled from the United States for violating the Mann Act. Not that one. Hey, speaking of the Mann Act, I thought that he was the only guy convicted and did time for the Mann Act, and just recently, unfortunately, because of the death of what's his name, the musician that I love. My mind is going real bad. We just lost
Chuck Berry?
Yeah, we just lost Chuck Berry, one of my favorites, and apparently he did 2 years for violation of the Mann Act.
Yes. I think, I remember reading that at one point. Yeah, and you know who else did? Elliot Spitzer.
Well, did he actually do time for the Mann Act? I know he was charged.
Who, Spitzer?
Yeah.
I don't think he did time. I think maybe he got I don't know what the.
He got his
really
wrist.
Good documentary about it, but it was sort of trumped up charges with his similar. I mean, if you sort of follow the arguments in the documentary, I think it's called Client.
Oh, I guess they figured that would be better than him taking all the money and flying helicopters with all his prostitutes. I guess that was okay, but taking them across state lines is where they draw the line, right?
Well, yeah, I mean that's he and that's one of the arguments made in the film is that he had been going after Wall Street pretty hard. So it was one of those things where they used his appetites against him, but so not like Jack Johnson, who, like we've talked about, that was his wife at the time.
I know, crazy stuff. But anyway, Carlos Monzon, tell us about this superstar.
Yeah, Carlos Monzon, legitimate hardcore badass. And boxing has some really nice people in it, and it has some nasty people in it, and you'd have to say Carlos is the latter, not the former. He was big for a middleweight, 5'11" and a half. He was born, August 7th, 1942, in Santa Fe, San Javier, Santa Fe province in Argentina, and fought as a middleweight. He was one of 12 children. They were Catholic, big shocker, and he was actually a devotee of the Our Lady of Guadalupe. They're very, very poor. He had many jobs as a kid, and Bill, as we've learned many times, one of those jobs was selling newspapers. Those guys had, they had to protect their beat, so they learned to fight with their fists.
It's so many times that was the case with the Blast from the Past fighters. They all started their fighting careers guarding their turf with newspapers. And how much the world has changed. I mean, newspapers today are becoming extinct. I don't know what people fight for now. We've become a society, a bunch of wimps. Nobody fights for anything.
They fight on Twitter.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. These kids used to fight in the street for their penny newspapers, their dime newspapers. Now everybody's a tough guy behind their computer. Nobody actually fights anybody. They're real tough behind their computer, though.
I'm gonna sock you right in your social media.
Yeah, that's right. I'm gonna hit you where it hurts. I'm gonna abuse you on social media. But. Anyway, yeah, that's something I didn't realize, that Monzon started out as one of the tough kids of the streets selling papers.
Well, he also did Shining Shoes, and that was another one of those. That's what I mean. That there's so many things in his background that just scream out. They're almost cliches of the sort of Oliver Twist type character becomes boxer and becomes champion of the world, sort of Cinderella story. He shined shoes, he delivered milk, and he settled his street fights with this mighty right hand. He was just under 6 feet tall, and he carried the punch of a giant oak. He fought shrewdly and intelligently. He lost 3 times in his first 20 bouts and never lost again. Eddie Futch thought of him as one of the greatest right-hand punchers, up there with other great right-hand punchers like Max Baer, Max Schmeling, Ingemar Johansson. That was one of his big things, is that he was one of these guys who, he didn't do any one thing aside from the big right hand. There was not any one thing that he did tremendously. He wasn't like Oscar De La Hoya, who had that golden boy left hook. If anything, there was the big right hand, but he wore you down just with pressure. He was just a force, a tidal force that came on in fights, and he was insistent. There was no stopping him. Not much elegance to his style, but it was based on a strong left jab, and he was patient, and he'd get you.
You know what? Another important thing to say about Carlos Monzon. I mean, once he won the world title, when you take a look at the guys that he fought as a champion, of course there were a couple of layup fights, stay busy fights, but even those guys, even though they're not household names, were accomplished fighters. But the thing that stands out the most to me, Alex, is that this guy never seemed to fight, especially as a world champion, never seemed to fight a fight that would leave any doubt of who won the fight. He would either stop his opponent, make his opponent quit, or win a lopsided decision. There were no split decisions, controversial endings. I mean, this was a guy that kept his foot on the gas pedal for the entire fight, and it's something that we don't see that often today.
Yeah, when I was trying to think of a fighter that of recent memory that fights similarly, the only guy I could think of was lighter, 2 divisions down at welterweight in Antonio Margarito, who was a big, almost like this big sort of Frankenstein's monster that just would keep banging on you, and wear you down and stop you. But of course, Margarito had his issues, and this guy we're talking, Monzon, of course, was blasting out Hall of Famers. We talk about what gets fighters into the Hall of Fame, and that's one of the things that I think is something they think of heavily. And if you look at the other Hall of Famers that he fought and how he did against them, he fought 3. Nino Benvenuti, Jose Napoles, and Emil Griffith. Against Benvenuti, he fought him twice, stopped him twice. Against Jose Napoles, he fought him once, stopped him once. So they say that Monzon was the kind of guy he could ruin fighters. And they said Napoles was never the same after Monzon beat him. He fought Emil Griffith twice. He stopped him once. So, I mean, that's a pretty dominant you faced 3 Hall of Famers and beat them every time.
Well, he also beat, in his last 2 fights, Rodrigo Valdez, who he just lost, and that's a guy that's kind of Hall of Fame worthy as well. Benny Briscoe.
Yeah, and so is Denny Moyer is another guy who is is quite the badass. So he did have guys that are cusp Hall of Famers.
Well, Benny Briscoe is another one.
Yeah.
Who was a guy that was kind of during Monzon era, and then he was at the end of his career when Hagler took over. So I mean, he
drew with him.
Yeah, So I mean, it's good. The one guy I'm not familiar with who looks like he was a good fighter is the guy he fought and won against in 1972, Tom Boggs. I never heard of him. Do you know anything about him?
No.
Yeah,
I remember Bill Boggs had a talk show on WPIX.
No, I don't think there's a relation there with him. Hey, but speaking of a talk show, the Gong, what's his name from the Gong Show passed away.
Yeah.
Barry?
Chuck Barris.
Chuck Barris, yeah, 87. But anyway, Carlos.
Yeah, I just wanted to double check the Carlos Monzon Benny Briscoe fights. They do seem to be on YouTube. This one seems to be in Spanish. Yeah, that's a nice. I'll tweet that and put it on the show's Facebook page.
Yeah, just as long as it's not part of the Don King library.
You saw that, huh?
Yeah. Well, I heard about it. We got the eye in the sky. But anyway, the thing about Carlos Monzon is that the part of it outside the ring. Carlos Monzon became a superstar, and he rubbed elbows. Everybody wanted to hang out with him. He was during the era, especially in the 70s, the early 70s to mid 70s, when the Joe Namaths were walking around with full-length mink coats. My idol at the time. And Carlos Monzon was no different, man. He was rubbing elbows with these guys. He had been seen out in some snazzy clothes, and he had women generally all around him. But unfortunately, that would kind of tie him to his untimely death, that spotlight and the fast-paced lifestyle, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, that's the thing. He had that rugged handsomeness. He had a career in the movies. He played bit parts in a lot of Argentine films and a couple of spaghetti westerns. And yeah, like you said, the fast. You know, you can't help but think of it sort of like a Brian De Palma-esque scenes of him getting out of Lamborghinis and stuff. You know, like a Countach, like a 76 Countach or something.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so I mean, and with fur coats and everything, I'm very surprised there has not been a movie. But
well, I mean, his wife shot him twice, and during his career.
Yeah. So, like you said, he had a lot of problems with women. As much as he loved the women, he liked beating on them. And Beatriz Garcia was his first wife, and their relationship ended after a fight in which she shot him twice, once in the forearm and once in the back, and that was a bullet that stayed lodged in his body for life. Then Susana Jimenez was his second wife. I don't really have any info on that marriage, but I'm sure it couldn't have been all that placid. Ends up, the real tragic one is his third marriage with Alicia Muniz. Alicia died from injuries from a fall off her balcony. Reports were that Monzon threw her off the balcony and then tossed himself off after her. But an autopsy showed she suffered severe bruising to her neck even before the fall. So he killed her. He beat her to death. Monzon proclaimed his innocence, but one quote I found had him saying, "I insulted and beat my wife, but it can't have seriously harmed her because I beat all my women, and nothing ever happened to them." So because he had never killed a woman before, he couldn't imagine he could have killed one. I guess, killed her.
Well, the Elisa Munoz, who ultimately he did time for, I don't know if they ever actually got married. She was considered a common law wife, but what goes to show you the ways the community loved this guy, and similar to like O.J. Simpson, when you reach a certain plateau, it's almost like you can do no wrong, and that's kind of what happened to Carlos Monzon. I mean, here he is, gets convicted and sentenced to killing his girlfriend. 11 years in jail he gets sentenced to, and when everything was finally over in 1989, and 5 years later, 6 years later, they were letting him go out on furlough for the weekends, driving his cars and doing all of this, and that's how ultimately he died. You could tell us about that, but I find that amazing that special people get special privileges even when you're in jail for murder.
Oh, it's good behavior.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we haven't seen a movie, because it is, he's a pretty slimy character, and it does suggest that, it does kind of cast Argentina in somewhat of a bad light, that they have elevated a guy who's a wife beater. However, one of the things that was sort of, he's a very Catholic, I believe it's a very Catholic country. Divorce was even illegal. So this guy, by being so popular and so much in the news, he affected the culture of Argentina. And he brought to light, his story brought to light a lot of domestic abuse as an issue. So in that way, the society was better for it, because they learned through, his tabloid brutality that, women could come forward and start talking about it. And that's, things moving in a positive direction. But again, like you said, he had furloughs, and one thing that he was doing that was somewhat positive was it wasn't just to visit his family. He was released, and he was actually helping train amateur boxers. and he was driving back to jail, and he had a couple other people in the car, family members, and he crashed the car. Another person in the car died, and a third was injured but survived. Some called it a suicide. He did have a very violent, turbulent life, and like I said, he had 12. He was one of 12. There were several times where, on the eve of fights, he had a loved one dies. The night before one of his fights in '73, his brother was shot and killed. So interesting guy, very violent life.
And now, when he was killed in the car accident, wasn't he racing to get back? Wasn't it like in 2 or 3 in the morning? He was trying to get back in time. Wasn't he driving fast?
I don't know. I don't think he was driving to the jail. He was definitely driving fast. But like I said, he had these other family. Where did I put that article? He had these other family members in the car, or I think it was a cousin that died with him. So yeah, he definitely was coming back from something. It was late night, early morning.
I had read an article about that he was racing to get back to make the curfew for his time out of jail, and the family members, which I didn't realize there was 3. I thought there was only 1. That family members were there to drive the car back after they dropped him off. That's what they were doing in the car. But anyway, he had some great fights, and was a guy that, even though he was, like you mentioned, kind of a scourge guy outside the ring, he was one of those characters that we don't have today. And sometimes a character could be good and sometimes a character could be bad. I had an email earlier trying to suggest that Floyd is a character, and I disagree. It's not the same. Floyd, he definitely made his mark on the sport, but, his personality isn't of one. I don't know. Maybe I better just quit while I'm ahead. How did he make out in Title Bout?
We had a lot of fun with Title Bout because you gave me I guess this person requested quite a few.
Jesse.
It's Jesse. Okay. I just wanted to say here, I did find the article where his death was announced. Another person was killed in the crash, and a third was in critical condition at hospital. But yeah, you're right. He was driving back to the prison, so maybe he was speeding or having a little joyride on his way back and went too fast around a curve, and boom. All right, so Title Bout Championship Boxing game. I put him in against, these were all fights at middleweight, and he put him in against some classic middleweight fighters. First up, Roberto Duran. The first time they fight, Carlos Monzon wins by split decision. One score of 115-113, another 117-111. One judge had it for Duran, 115-114. When they fight 100 times, Monzon, who I figured the naturally bigger dude, dominates. 72 victories, 14 defeats, 14 draws. He scored 14 knockouts. Of his 14 wins, Duran stopped Monzon twice. Against Iran Barkley, the first time they fight, Monzon cuts up Barkley and stops him at the end of 7 rounds. He can't come out for the 8th. They were punches that opened up the cuts, and they stopped it. When they fight 100 times, Monzon dominates. 83 victories, 9 defeats, 8 draws. He scored 20 KOs. Of his 9 victories, Iran Barkley stopped Monzon 5 times. Against the great UK fighter that we did last week? Nigel Benn, the first time they fight, it is a unanimous draw. 3 scores of 114-114 versus 114. So they rematch, and in that unanimous draw, Ben was dropped in the 7th. So when they rematch, Monzon wins by TKO in 10 rounds at 2 minutes and 34 seconds. When they fight 100 times, Monzon dominates. 72 victories, 24 defeats, and 4 draws. He scored 32 KOs. In his 24 victories, Nigel Benn scored 10 KOs. Next we got the great Michael Nunn. Michael Nunn did surprisingly well. And, you know, when you think about it, he was a pretty, he was second to Nunn, Bill.
I loved watching Michael Nunn. He was an exciting fighter, put his foot on the gas all the time, and he was a guy that's already forgotten, which is pretty sickening, but go ahead.
The first time they fight, it's a draw. The rematch, it's a majority decision for Carlos Monzon. No, I'm sorry, a split decision for Carlos Monzon. And then when they fight 100 times, Michael Nunn, Monzon wins only 37. He loses 48, and they have 15 draws. And Monzon scored 11 KOs. And in his 48 victories, Michael Nunn stops Carlos Monzon 7 times. Against James Lights Out Tony, the first time they fight, it's a majority decision for Carlos Monzon. Scores of 115-113 and 116-112, and one score of 114 even. When they fight 100 times, Carlos Monzon wins 55, loses 27, draws 18, and in his 55 wins, he scores 13 KOs. In the 27 victories that Lights Out Tony scored, he scored 3 knockouts. Against the marvelous Marvin Hagler, the first time they fight, it's a technical draw, stopped after 4 due to a headbutt. But it is Monzon who's shredded up, not Hagler. And they stopped that fight, so I had them rematch. Unanimous decision for the marvelous one. 2 scores of 115-114, and 1 score of 116-113. When they fight 100 times, Marvin dominates. Monzon wins only 25, loses 64, and 11 draws. And Monzon scored 5 KOs in his 25 wins. In his 64 victories, Marvin scored 9 KOs. And finally, against the not as dominant looking as he was last week at this time, Gennady Golovkin, the first time they fight, Carlos Monzon scores a knockout, 6 rounds, 1 minute 50 seconds. Triple G's eye was badly cut, and he's being shelled. When they stop it, Monzon had won every round. When they fight 100 times, Carlos Monzon dominates. 88 victories, 7 defeats, 5 draws, 44 KOs. In his 7 wins, Golovkin scored 3 knockouts.
Wow, interesting. Great job. I'm glad Jesse gave us so much work, huh?
I was, when I was doing it last night, I was like, man, there's a lot of guys.
There's a lot of guys on this list. You know, that's why he's always writing emails. You know, well, how do you think he does against this guy, that guy? How about, who should he fight next? You know, he's very thorough, Jesse. But anyway, we want to thank Jesse for keeping Alex so busy because he had nothing else to do for the last several days. But remember, if you guys have a blast that you want us to do, just drop me an email, Billy@TalkinBoxing, TalkinBoxing.com. This week, Carlos Monzon, former world middleweight champion. He did hold that title for 7 years. He was inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame in 1990. One thing I want to make a note about that I forgot to mention, in 1974, the WBC stripped Monzon of his title because at that time he refused to fight Rodrigo Valdez, and he also wouldn't take a drug test after one of his fights, and he ended up refusing to pay a $5,000 fine. Ironically enough, he subsequently did win back the WBC title and not only fought Valdez once and beat him, he fought him twice, and ultimately would be his last fight. Carlos Monzon, career record, 87 wins, 59 coming by knockout. And like Alex said earlier, he lost 3 fights and then would never lose again. Didn't lose them in a row, but after his third loss, never lost another fight. He had 9 draws, 59 of his wins coming by knockout. And like I said, inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1990. Alex, great job as usual, my man. And we'll look forward to next week's blast and hopefully get you on the phone for some final thoughts on the fights from last week and the ones coming up this week on Friday.
All right, brother.
You have a good one, my man.
All right, bye-bye.
That's Alex Papali. You can catch him every time we do the blast. Hey, listen, I'm going to take a short break. When I come back, Sal and I are going to read through some more emails, some news, all of that in about 2.
The Billy C. Morning Show will be right back. Part of the Billy C. Boxing Network.
Broadcasting in all corners of the globe, on the web and radio.
He would scoff at a stretcher, that man, I would think.
You're listening to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. from upstate New York in the good old US of A.
Boxing is here to stay because we are here to stay.
The best 2 hours of boxing talk on the airwaves.
Hey, fight fans, check out KOFantasyBoxing.com. KO Fantasy Boxing is boxing's only trademarked fantasy game. Check it out, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Select your own gym, your own fighters, track them through a season that can last from 3 months to a year, depending upon which league you join. You got to check this out, man. www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Join it today. Again, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. And tell them Billy C sent ya.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning.
Shabop that wah. And we're back. You're listening to the Billy C Show. Glad you could join us, and don't forget about downloading the Fight TV app on your handheld. That's right. Just go to Fight. That's FITE. Fight.tv/Billy C, and download the app today, and you won't regret that. And joining me now again is my man Sal Rocky Senecola. And Sal, we got a couple of more emails to read to get your thoughts on. So if you're ready, I'm ready.
Yes, sir, I am ready, and I enjoyed listening to your segments with Larry and Alex.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm glad it passed your. I'm glad you gave us your approval on that.
I really love this show.
Yeah. We need you to talk a little closer to your mic. But
I'm gonna get closer.
You know what? I think you need to ground Nicholas, because he shouldn't have touched anything. Damn it! I got to tell him, but
it was Sal that did it.
Oh, I'm sorry, Nicky. Now Nicky's gonna slap me around next time he sees me.
I'm teaching out of boxing.
I know. He started training. I gotta. What am I saying? I gotta just tell him I'm sorry. All right, but anyway, this one's from my man Johnston. You can check out his column. He's got a column up on BillyCBoxing.com. Good article about one of my favorite looking venues. I've always wanted to go to York Hall in England. So for all of our British viewers and listeners out there, Sal and I want to come to England. So make it happen, man. We want to do our show there for a week. That would be great. Anyway, Johnson says, good morning, guys. He says, I'm going to get straight to the point. I think Triple G deserves to be rated as the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter after his 12-round decision over Danny Jacobs. After watching the fight a second time, I cannot in any way give Jacobs the fight. It was close, and I feel that he did very well on his back foot. He also rubbished the Joe Louis and Mike Tyson claim that every man has a plan until they get hit. I actually think Jacobs stuck to his game plan even more so after the knockdown in the fourth. The more the fight went on, I did start to worry that Jacobs was going to go in to get the nod. Barry Jones was the co-promoter on Box Nation. Was the co-commentator on Box Nation, was not helping as he had Jacobs winning by 2 rounds, which for the life of me, I don't get. In the end, I muted the commentary. I had visions of the Ward-Kovalev fight, which was very similar apart from the final result. Thankfully, I wasn't the only one that had Triple G winning by the odd round, as the guys in the studio had it the same, as did HBO and you guys on the Talkin' Boxing show. I have to completely agree with Dax's article. He wrote after the fight that the fight fan only understands knockouts, and their rationalization of who should win comes from the internet. It was clear to me that you guys on the show that Triple G won the fight should be given more credit than he's getting. Just because he didn't get the knockout doesn't mean he shouldn't be now considered the best middleweight in the business. No doubt we'll have to wait for Triple G to turn 40 before Canelo's team finally gets the balls to make the fight happen. Sounds like he's following in someone else's footsteps. Don't even have to mention his name. He says, but here's a dreadful comment from Oscar De La Hoya concerning Triple G and Canelo. And this is a quote from Oscar. He says, I actually believe the percentages of making the fight have decreased. It all depends on negotiations, and we're going to continue talks. But now, obviously, we all clearly know who the A side is, and that's obviously Canelo. So I'm going to instruct my president, Eric Gomez, to continue talks, and hopefully it can get done. He said, not that Triple G's value went down. I just feel that given in today's market, that Triple G's side has to be more fair when they want to make this fight. And then to add to that, Johnson says when he reads the current pound-for-pound rankings by some, they have talk of Triple G moving up after his win over Jacobs, and that he would not still be number 1 or number 2. He feels that the number 1 guy they all have is Andre Ward, which is a joke. What's your thoughts, man? I mean, first of all, Oscar De La Hoya's comment about Canelo being number 1. How can that be when Canelo really hasn't? He's been taking the safety first Floyd Mayweather approach ever since his loss to Floyd.
I agree with you, and I think that was so true. We saw that fight together, Canelo and Floyd, and I was pulling for Canelo more than he was. I think it was a learning experience for him. I think we saw that his approach and his stepping to the side and planting that foot to get settled before delivering was definitely negating his offense and nullifying his ability to reach Floyd. And it was a learning fight for him. But you know what? I have not seen much of an improvement, maybe just a little bit with that lateral movement since that fight. And I think he stagnated his marketability by avoiding Triple G and the claims and everything else. So I'd like to see him get back on track, because I do feel that he is a good talent, but I don't know what's going on emotionally or up in his head, or if it's his management team or De La Hoya or whatever. But I think, again, fighters should challenge themselves.
Well, it's all about the money. They're trying to position him to make the most money, and if Canelo's making more money than everyone that's got their claws into him is, especially now that he's got to pay that $12 million with his former promoter. He lost a second case. It was the same case, but the redo or whatever. The bottom line is this, and I say this a lot, Sal. And I used Sugar Ray Leonard as an example. Sugar Ray Leonard was a vocal guy and flashy guy, and he would always brag and say he would win the fight, but he never said how. So at the end of the day, when he won the fight, nobody could say he didn't do it the way he said he was going to. Today's fighters say a lot of things for whatever reason, whether they want to try to sell tickets, which I can't see that the boxing fan is that stupid that they need somebody to convince them to buy a ticket without them already knowing that it's a valuable fight. But the problem with Canelo that I have is that he grabs the mic and he says, us Mexicans don't F around. I'm the best. I'll fight anybody. I fear no one. And, since those statements, he's fought no one of note. And I believe that his next fight against Julio Cesar Chavez is not going to be a cakewalk. So listen, I think Canelo Alvarez has a lot to prove. If I'm Canelo Alvarez, I am not looking forward to the negotiations of Triple G. I'm focusing on Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. because that's going to be a tough fight. Anyway, we got another email. Sal, this one's from my man Bobby from Annapolis. He says, hey, Billy C., I hope all is well with you and Sal and the rest of the cast. He says, I noticed on your last show on Monday, you made no mention on Monday's last show, you made no mention of the undercard of the Kaufman-Mansour fight, and that's not a bad thing. It featured the biggest scam artist in boxing today, Floyd Mayweather. Oh, no, that's who I think is the biggest scam artist. Bobby says, Kermit Killer Cintron. It's not easy being green. Oh, wait a minute. I think that's a different Kermit. I think that's the different Kermit. But anyway, he says this guy has not had a notable fight a notable win in 8 years. Alfredo Angulo being the last decent fighter he beat, and that was in 2009. Canelo dispatched him in 11. His comeback fight in 13, he fought Adrian Granados and got a gift split decision draw, which in a fight I vividly remember. Granados won easily. Cintron doesn't seem to possess even half the power he displayed earlier in his career. A couple of things I noticed in his most recent gift fight against David Grayton is that his height seems to be a disadvantage for him, and he doesn't seem to know how to lean clean punches at all. Being tall and gangly puts him in an awkward position, and he's always falling down, and he looks sloppy in every fight. Worst of all, you can see as plain as day he no longer has any motivation to fight. Personally, I won't watch another one of his fights. He's the very definition of a fighter who just is there for the paycheck. What do you guys think? Should this guy be getting opportunities when he's well past his prime? In my opinion, his opponent, David Grayton, was robbed of a career-changing win this past Friday night. Keep up the great work. Listen, I've given up on Kermit Cintron a long time ago, Bobby. Kermit Cintron was a force to be reckoned with as a welterweight. But he had, when he quit, he said he just didn't have the desire to fight anymore. And I agree with what Bobby says, Sal. He shows it in his performances. And I don't know how much money he's doing it for, because he can't possibly be making that much money. I think he's just trying to position himself for another shot at a title to cash out. But when he can't even get by the tune-up and layup fights that they're giving him in a decisive way, I don't know. I'm with Bobby on this. I haven't watched, and I didn't talk about his fight because I don't think anything of Kermit Cintron, except that maybe he should get back dating Miss Piggy. Wait a minute, it's a different Kermit. But anyway, what's your thoughts, my man?
I do too. It's something when you can see that a fighter has to look at that mirror and he knows the end is near. And anyway, I think that he's looking to maybe cash in, and the well is dry, and sometimes an older fighter like that is just looking for that one last send off, and wants to make it the best he can. But like you said, if he can't sustain a string of wins against fighters he should easily beat or just get by, it's going to be hard to get him into that position that he wishes to go out on. So, you know what? I think, he better look in the mirror and ask himself some serious questions. Is the prize still worth the price?
Every time he looks in the mirror, he just starts singing. It's not easy being green. But anyway. A couple of things I wanted to point out. Some news that's in some boxing news in the news. It was released today that or late yesterday, that negotiations have started between Top Rank and Tiekin Promotions concerning the Hassam Nadam fight against Ryota Murata. And this is for the WBA regular middleweight title. My question here is, the WBA has been bragging about how they're combining titles, and Daniel Jacobs had the WBA regular middleweight title, and they were supposed to, and Triple G had the super the middleweight super world middleweight title for the WBA, and they, as far as I was concerned, they combined those titles on Saturday night, but apparently Hassam Nadam has somehow picked up the interim WBA title, so now they're going to have another regular title holder that is going to have to fight the super champion again. I mean, what happened to this? I mean, you know, these sanctioning bodies with all these belts, I mean, it's disgusting. And, you know, Nadam wants to fight in France, where he's from, but it seems like, you know, Bob Arum and Top Rank are going where the money is, and that's Japan. I like the fight between Hassam Nadam and Murata. I think it's going to be a good fight. But what the hell happened to the WBA combining all the belts, Sal?
Let me tell you, it is really just frustrating for the fighter or fight fans to look at all these belts. I mean, Bill, you know, I used to love the idea that each state or country, they may have like their state champion, then they'll have a national champion, then for one of the world sanctioning bodies, you become a world champion. You know, not these intercontinental, not this one, the fighter of the month. You know, there's just too many hoops and hurdles and belts out there for the promoters to make the money, but sell the fans short. And I don't like it. Like I said, I love the days when there was each state had a championship belt. Then you had either the NABF or the USBA to represent the national title, and then you fought for a world championship. That's the way it should be.
Right. Well, you know, I agree with you 100%. But what makes this even more sickening is that these are all multiple titles within one sanctioning body. So we haven't even gotten out of the WBA. I mean, you know, the WBO, the WBC, the IBF, they all have the same situation, you know, so you multiply that times 4, you know. But another fight that was announced yesterday, April 28th in Bulgaria, Kubrat Pulev, a guy that I think would be able to beat Deontay Wilder without much problem, is fighting a guy that I've grown to dislike immensely, and that's Kevin Johnson. I was one of Kevin Johnson's biggest fans, and you know, he pulled the same thing David Haye did. You know, he ends up just fighting to survive, and he's amassed 7 losses since his undefeated record. But Kubrat Pulev fights Kingpin Kevin Johnson on April 20th. Here's my issues with this fight. Pulev is a guy that I think should be in the mix for you know, a title fight, whether it be against Deontay, whether it be against Anthony Joshua at some point, whatever. I know he's got to stay busy, but after his loss to Klitschko, he beat Mo Harris, who's got a record of 26 wins, 20 losses, and 3 draws. This is Pulev. And actually, Mo Harris is a better fighter than his record suggests, even though Pulev blew him out and won. He beat Derek Chisora, who's basically a club-style fighter. And he beat Sam Peter, who they dragged out of retirement. I think he's 105 now. Beat him in his last fight. So, see, he really hasn't. I mean, for a guy like me who's saying that he deserves a shot at Deontay Wilder, he really hasn't fought anybody to justify my claim. So it makes me look like a moron. But Kevin Johnson is no better. Listen, he fought Anthony Joshua in 2015, was stopped for the first time in his career, bragged that nobody could stop him. Anthony Joshua knocked him out. Since that fight, Sal, in 2015, he fought one time, and that was a couple of weeks ago on March 11th, and he beat Jamal Woods. Jamal Woods has a record of 11 wins, 32 losses, and 6 draws. How does Pulev decide to pick Kevin Johnson to fight when he's in line for a big fight? How do you justify that?
I really don't know. He might as well have just picked Mo Green, but you know,
he should have picked Kermit the Frog. I think he would have had a better fight. One other thing I wanted to mention real quick as we wrap it up here, and I want to get your final thoughts on one thing after this. But Josito Lopez, an exciting fighter. I love Josito Lopez. This is a guy that really. They call him the Riverside Rocky, and he's a throwback. I don't know if you've ever seen him fight, Sal, but you should punch him up, Josito Lopez. You'll fall in love with this guy. He fights the way I know you'll love it, but the thing I respect the most about him is he'll fight anybody. He's fought way bigger guys. Most of his losses are against bigger guys, but he returns to the ring. His record now sits at 34-7, and he will be fighting Saul Corral, who's 22-8. on April 9th. So that's a fight that I'm definitely going to keep my eye on. But as we wrap it up here, Sal, I know you've had some time to sit and think about it, but my main discussion today was Chocolatito. Was he robbed of history? I mean, I know that there's conflicting opinions of the fight. You know, myself, I changed my stance on the fight. I do believe he won the fight now. I mean, unfortunately, if I would have been the judge scoring it, I would have went the other way on fight night. But I do think he squeaked out a win. I do think it was a competitive fight. I do think it was an exciting fight. But deeper than the win on his record that he didn't get, I feel he's been cheated out of at least an opportunity to make history in boxing. How do you feel on that? What's your final thought?
I concur. I mean, I feel the same way. I mean, my scorecard had him win, and I think, like I said, it's subject to human opinion and human error. So I think that it's a shame because they should have looked twice, 3 times, whatever it might have been. But you know, unless they come out with a computerized scoring along with the judges, it is what it is. And yes, I feel he was robbed of a chance at history. And he'll still be an historical fighter one day, and he'll always go down as one of the greatest pound for pound. But yet, his undefeated record and everything else and all the kudos that come with it, yeah, that's no longer going to happen. And I think he was cheated out of it, and it should have been something that was looked at very closely. But it's never going to be an issue anymore in the future.
I wonder if there's enough data to challenge the decision and to have it overturned to a no contest, and then start his count again. I wonder if powers that be from Camp Gonzalez has even entertained that. I mean, I wonder if the New York State Athletic Commission, if they reviewed that fight, could find any definitive proof that the judges got it wrong.
You know what? I think that is a great case to bring up, and it's like when I had made my pro debut. I first initially lost against Gary Gamble on ESPN on, I think it was either Alexis Arguello or undercard, and I was butted. I received 63 stitches in my forehead, and afterwards. But that fight was my pro debut, and later on it was reversed and called a no contest or no decision because Jersey had a rule on the book saying if any fight is stopped before the end of the 3rd round, then it's a no contest. Well, you know what? I think they could do something about Coach Chocolatito's camp and see if there's anything they could do to put a little thorn in there in that decision and say, hey, look, we have it this way. Let's all review it. Let's all see it and see if we got it wrong. It's not going to be easy for judges to admit that you had it wrong, and overturning the decision. But maybe there could be enough meat on the bones to validate why they can make it maybe a no decision, no contest. I don't know. I'm not that decision maker. But I would like to see something, at least an effort from the Chocolatito camp to be made and pushed, because this was too big to just let happen on a card like that.
I agree. Hey, listen, boys and girls and men and women and children of all ages. And really everybody that's watching and listening to the show. Hey, make sure that you tune in next time. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, I'll leave you with this. Ciao, baby.